Namaste, everyone. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for tuning in. Um, I was listening to somebody talk about chakras. Really, just he was talking about the lower chakras and taking issue with the idea of the way that the lower chakras, the first, second, and third chakras, are often described as like this animalistic self, this pre-human self, this thing that needs to be discarded. And it made me, I don't disagree with one or the other necessarily, but thinking about this journey of awakening and this journey of transcending that happens, and what parts of ourselves we need to keep and what parts of ourselves we need to let go of. And in the end, when we are growing and expanding, there's always something that's worth keeping. There's always something that's worth holding on to. Because if we get too lofty in our endeavors, then we typically become untethered. And that doesn't serve us either. And there's something about this lower self, or these lower three chakras, that they keep us safe. Like, they are the self that says, watch out, protect yourself, listen, be aware, react, rather than being contemplative about something. Like, just let the instinct take over. And that's important, so that we keep this tether to the ground even as we ascend into our cognitive self of the humanness and our transcendent self of our spiritual self, our divine self, always keeping some relationship to those parts of us that have helped us, that have kept us alive until this point. Yeah. So I want you to think about that a little bit as you bring your hands into the center of your heart. And as you take your breath, travel that whole length of self, right? So that when you breathe in, it becomes super aware of the very base of your belly and all the way down to the tip of your tailbone. And as you breathe out, travel through your belly, your solar plexus, your throat, your third eye, and out through the crown of your head. And continue to breathe that way, so that every time you inhale, it's like reaching into the depths of the soil of yourself and being nourished by the nutrients of that fertile ground that is your original self, your primal self. And then carrying that through yourself. And you can take that metaphor further and carry it through the evolution of the stem and all the way into the budding and the flowering at the crown of your head. But having to go through this entire cycle with each round of breath. Because if you lose yourself on the journey, then what was the point? Take a breath all the way in for the sound of Om. Pause and let it resonate around you. And then breathe in. The next time that you're exhaling, let your hands break away and drop. And then start to make your way onto your back on your mat. And when you initially get down there, the soles of your feet can be flat to the floor. And just take it as an opportunity to, again, make contact with that deepest part of possibility in your breath. To notice the natural curve in your spine. Give yourself one more breath there. And then keep your left sole flat on the floor. Draw your right knee up toward your chest, and you can hold onto your knee and draw your thigh into your ribs. So you feel your low back drop into the floor there. Roll your right ankle around a couple times and just give it some space. Use your right peace fingers. Reach to the inside of your right leg to grab your right big toe. You can drop your left hand to your left hip and then practice extending your right leg long and bending your right knee. Extend it long and then soften. The next time that you extend it, pause. Plug your right shoulder deep into your socket, little bend in your right elbow, and let your right leg open about halfway toward the right. Keep the strength in your right elbow so that you're not letting your leg flop away or get away. And you can use your left hand against your left hip crease to remind your left hip to stay heavy. Give yourself one more moment to breathe in and make your right leg feel longer as you do. And then first, bend your right knee, close your right hip, drop the sole of your right foot, and then draw in your left knee. So you draw your left thigh in. You can interlace your fingers around the front of your knee. Drop into your low back and roll your left ankle around. And then use your left peace fingers. Move your left arm inside your leg to grab hold. Right hand over to your hip, and then practice extending your left leg. So it's the breath in that extends, and then you can bend. And Lindsay, if you have your middle finger in between your first and second toe, yeah. And then you can use that to just plug your left shoulder in a little bit more. And then the next time that your left leg is long, open your left leg to the left. And notice when there's a resistance, a fight, or a flop, right? So if there's some resistance, pause in that. If there's a fight quality that makes you want to run away from that, maybe you come back in a little bit. If there's a flopping, engage more of your left arm so that you support the opening of your lower self with your upper self. Give yourself a breath more. Good. And then first bend your left knee, bring everything back in. Bend both knees up toward your chest, cross both ankles. Rock and roll a couple times. Come on up to sit. And then flip yourself onto all fours. Your hands right underneath your shoulders. And your hips right underneath your knees. Or your knees right underneath your hips. That'd be funny, hips underneath your knees. Spread out wide from your thumb to your pinky. And keep a real neutral spine. When you breathe in, press the ground away and spread your upper back so you separate your scapula. And then when you exhale, sink into that and narrow your scapula. Do that a couple more times. Spread open, close in. Spread open, and then close in. And then find what feels like neutral in that. Put the weight into your right hand, and then move your left elbow down in line with your right thumb so you come down to your forearm. Bring that back up so you press through your right hand to bring your left hand in. Weight into your left hand, move your right elbow. And then press down through your hand and come back up. Move your left elbow forward and down, and then join your right elbow next to it. And then once you're there, play again with spreading through your scapula. So you press the ground and spread your scapula. And then you exhale and you sink in without crunching your ears up to your shoulders up to your ears. And then spread wide. And then sink in. And then spread wide. And sink in. Do that one more time. Press and spread. And then sink in. And then move your left hand back to where it was. Move your right hand to where it was. Pause there. Chin to your chest. Round your back. Move your tailbone toward your nose. And then undo that. Come to all fours. Move both hands forward a little bit. So almost where they were when you were down on your forearms. And then practice dropping your elbows simultaneously. And then come back up to this longer all fours. Press down, narrow in as your elbows come down. And then bring your elbows back up. Press down. Keep pressing the heel of your hand down to drop your elbows down. And then come back up. And you should be feeling a little bit of strength in your triceps, across your upper trapezius, and also at your chest. Do it one more time. So think elbows first, and then come back up. Good. And then bring your hands back to where they were. Curl your toes under. And take your first downward facing dog and just see what it feels like. So move length through your arms. Move length through your heels. And let your head dangle so you feel like the crown of your head is getting heavy toward the mat. You can rise and fall on your toes a couple times. And then sink in and settle there for a breath. Drop both knees down to your mat. And then find your block. Put the block middle height underneath your body. So underneath your torso, underneath your sternum, underneath your solar plexus there someplace. So you still feel like your all fours is exactly the same. You've just added this prop in there. And then press through your hands, press through your feet, lift up through your hips, look at the block as you're going. And then as your legs get long, let your hairline / top of your head make contact with your block. And so if it doesn't, you can always drop down and bring your block up to the higher height, right? But work at finding that extension through your arms, the work and strength in your arms to allow your head to dangle and gently touch your block. And then bring your knees down again and pause. And then send it back. So as you're moving your weight back toward your feet, you're pressing through your hands, you can see the block, see the block, see the block, see the block, and then let your head gently touch down. Give yourself one more breath right here. As you're lifting your head off the block, move your right foot forward for a lunge. Tense your fingertips and open up your chest. And then step that back. Place your head on your block as you go to downward facing dog. As you're moving your head up, move your left foot forward. Take a lunge. Opening up. And then step back. Downward facing dog. Let your head gently touch down. Do it one more time. Your right foot moves up by your right hand. Raise your right arm into the sky. Revolve around yourself. And then drop your right hand as you step back, downward facing dog. See the block, see the block, see the block, and then descend. Let your head gently touch. Left foot stepping forward. And then add your left arm into the sky. Release your left hand as you step back. See the block as you go. See the block as you go. See the block, and then gently rest your head. Take 3 breaths right here, breathing all the way in. Notice when your shoulders want to move up by your ears, and then do the work of keeping your shoulders moving away. One more moment, one last breath. Good, and then right where you are, begin to walk yourself forward. Walk past the block so that when you get up to the front of your mat, you have this forward bend. Your feet might feel slightly wider, but if you keep your hands right where they are, your block should be in a good spot. Ease yourself up to stand and release your arms down by your sides. Give yourself a whole breath all the way in and a whole breath out. Arms up alongside your head. Lift your gaze. See your hands. Fold over, hinge, and bow. So if you drop your hands right in front of your feet where they were a moment ago, it should be a good spot. Send your right leg back for a long lunge. Breathe in. Step your way back. See the block. Rest your head on the block. Roll out long for plank pose. Breathing in, spread your scapula, spread open, gaze forward, and then back you go, downward facing dog. Gently touch the block. Move your right foot forward, take a lunge. Bring your left foot forward and fold over. Bring your arms up to the sky, high prayer. Namaste. Release your arms down by your sides. Do that again on the other side. Arms up, breathing in. Fold over and touch down. Send your left foot back for a long lunge. And then as you step, see the block, see it, see it, see it. Touch it with your head. Roll out long for plank. Spread your scapula while you're in plank. So there's a real opening across your back. And then go back, downward facing dog. Touch the block. Move your left foot forward, breathing in. Join your right foot next to it and fold over. Bow down. Reach for the sky, a high prayer. Pause your prayer at the center of your heart and release your arms. Do it one more time each side. Reach up, breathing all the way in. Fold over and touch down. If you can do it, you can flip the block down behind you one level, step your right foot back behind you. You can always leave the block just as it was. And then see the block as you go back. See it, see it, see it. Touch it with your head. Stretch out long for plank pose. You can pause here. If you drop the block, lower chaturanga, your pelvis will touch. Come back up, plank pose. Downward facing dog, see the block, see the block, see the block. Touch. Move your right foot forward, breathe in. Step your left foot forward to breathe out. Reach for the sky, a high prayer all the way up. Namaste. Release your arms. Do one last time for your left leg. Reach up, breathing in. Fold over and touch down. Send your left leg back behind you. Open up your chest. Step back. See the block. See it, and then let your head touch. If it lowered to that flatter level, plank pose to chaturanga. Back up for plank. And down dog. And then your left foot comes forward. And your right foot joins it. Fold in. You can slip the block over to the floor off your mat. Fold into yourself. Arms up, breathing in. Namaste. And then release your arms. Good. Bend both knees, raise both arms. Utkatasana. And while you're in Utkatasana, reach up and interlace your fingers high. And then bring that right behind your head. So that you're in Utkatasana, but the heel of your hand is at the back of your skull, right at the occipital bump. And then narrow your elbows in. Flare them open. And then narrow them in. And then open them up. And then draw them in. And every time you open up, there should be a releasing of tension. And then narrow them in and feel your lats power up. When you open up, you might feel your shoulder blades narrow some, and then close in. A couple more times. Opening. Notice if anything else wants to change. Closing. Opening. Closing. Stay right there. Arms up by your head. Fold over and touch down. And then you can step back into plank pose with the breath in. Lower chaturanga if you like. Narrow your shoulder blades. And then add upward facing dog. Downward facing. Breathe all the way in. Let your head get heavy even with nothing there, right? So allow yourself to still feel what it was like to have something meeting your skull, and let your skull dangle in that direction. Step your right foot forward for a lunge. And then stretch your right leg, make it long. Turn your toes in parallel. Walk over toward Prasarita. But then your hands are going to walk off of your mat. And as they walk forward off of your mat, you keep moving your hips back in space. So that by the time you feel like you can't reach anymore, you can let your head get heavy and hang between your arms. So you come into a big dog. And maybe that means your skull can find the ground. But watch out for your elbows bowing just to make that happen. Lift your head, walk your hands one at a time back to your mat. Turn your right toes out, turn your left heel back some, walk over to the front, and then cartwheel up for warrior two. Reach out in both directions. Let your back arm get a little higher, Claire. And then sink into it. Flip your right hand to tip back for peaceful warrior. Cartwheel your hands down around your front foot. Step back for plank pose. Lower chaturanga if you like. Up dog, and then downward facing dog. Move your left foot forward, take a lunge. Stretch your left leg. Walk to the right, parallel your 2 feet. Again, walk your hands off the mat. So you walk beyond, but your heels stay down the whole time. Keep walking, Megan. See if you can walk a little bit more. And then let your head drop. So it might be your forehead or your hairline that can make contact with the floor. Big dog. And your head is barely touching, so it's barely bearing any weight. All the work in your arms. Most of it anyway. Lift your head, walk your hands back. Walk over to the left, turn your left toes out, turn your right heel back some. Cartwheel up for warrior two. Reach out. Roll your shoulders down your back. And play with the forward and back action. So reach a little bit forward, reach a little bit back, and then find the place where you're right over your tail. And feel the difference in your back leg when you really land there. Flip your left hand, tip back, peaceful warrior. Cartwheel down around your front foot. Breathe in for plank. Lower chaturanga. Up dog. Meeting up back at downward facing dog. Move your right foot forward, take a lunge. Stretch your right leg. Walk over to the left, parallel your 2 feet. This time walk your hands backward so they line up with the ball mound, the arches of your feet, and then narrow your elbows in so they feel like they're really parallel to each other, your forearms, your upper arms, and then fold, 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 and then perhaps your head touches down, prasarita. Notice if you did any widening of your feet in that last moment to fold to get your head down, right? But engage with the action on the front of your chest. Feel how you have to spread your scapula some. And then let your head bear a little bit of weight as you drop more weight into the ball mound of your foot. Notice if you're gripping your toes and see if you can let go of that. Lift your head, rock to your fingertips, walk your hands to the right, turn your right toes to the front, turn your left heel some to the back. Keep your legs long, triangle pose. So you can have your block there. But notice what it feels like to start low and grow from that point, right? So notice if you have a tendency to start low, want to come up and then get back down into it, and really grow from the touch, revolving at your chest. Breathing all the way in. And out. Good. See the ground, bend your right knee, rise up, tip back, peaceful warrior. Cartwheel down around your front leg right into Chaturanga Dandasana. Upward facing dog. And downward facing dog. Move your left foot forward for a lunge. Stretch out your left leg. Walk over to the right side. Walk your hands back in between your arches, but make sure that your hands don't go any wider than your shoulders. And then feel the action at your abdominals, your chest, spread your upper back, and then let your head gently deposit down. So maybe it makes contact, maybe it's more of a hang. If you feel like you're putting lots of pressure on your neck, narrow your feet a little bit. So you make contact without asking your head to bear all the weight. One last moment there. Rock to your fingertips, open up your spine, move to the left, turn your left toes, turn your right heel, grow from the ground right into triangle pose. Let your arm be the last concern, right? So it's the last expression. Turn open first. Bring your chin in just a little bit. So, Stephanie, your left hand by your left foot. Are you by your left foot? There you go. Triangle pose right there. One last breath. And then you can look down for stability when you bend your left knee. Rise up, tip back, peaceful warrior. Cartwheel down right into Chaturanga Dandasana. Upward facing dog. Roll your shoulders back. And then downward facing. One more time, take your right foot forward. Stretch out your right leg. Parallel everything out. And this time, grab your outer ankle so your fingers wrap around your Achilles tendon. Puff your chest here so you feel your legs take over. Open up your spine. Gaze forward a little bit. Then bend your elbows. Bow them out wide. And let your head gently touch down. So maybe you feel more of the top of your head this time as you come into Prasarita. Still not taking all the weight there, right? You've taken your hands away so that they're not bearing much weight anymore. So you have to put the work into your legs. Noticing when your chin is pulled dramatically into your throat, see if you can find a neutral upper spine there. One last breath. Press your fingers against your Achilles, press your feet into the ground, lift your head up. Walk over to your right foot, turn out your right toes, bend your right knee, side angle here, reach with your left arm alongside your head, and then turn open. Plug in with your right thigh bone. Bend your right knee toward your right arm some, Megan. Give yourself a breath more. See the ground, left hand to your hip, move your right fingers forward to the right. You can use your block as you lift up your left leg for Ardha Chandrasana. Add your left arm back up. Reach through the floor, right? So press through your fingers and feel like your fingers are getting longer, spidery into the ground. One last breath there. Bend your standing knee. You can look down for stability as you reach back with your left toes to tip back. Peaceful warrior. Cartwheel down into a 3-leg downward facing dog. Consciously keep your hip closed. See your standing leg. See beyond it. And then make your right leg longer. Notice if you lock your left knee or try to lift your kneecap, but make your right leg longer. One last breath there. Even out right into downward facing dog, nice and simple. And then step your left foot forward into a lunge. Stretch out your left leg. Walk over to the right. Grab your ankles. Last time here for Prasarita. So your fingers wrap around the Achilles right at the base of your calf. So that as you're folding through, you can look through in the top of your head, right where the flower buds. But notice how the importance of your roots, the importance of your feet, right, play into that. Because if it's all head and all desire to get your head to the ground, it starts to feel like you're falling. But if you press through your feet and feel a little bit more strength at your chest, then you can have your head down without it feeling precarious. One last moment. Lift your head, walk left. You're on your way to side angle, so you can turn your left toes out, turn your right heel back. Use your block or tent your fingers, and then reach with your right arm alongside your head. Try to turn at your right armpit a little bit, Stephanie. And then at the same time, roll your left shoulder back. Now a little breastbone turn. But stay strong in both legs. Good. And then you can gaze down, move your right hand towards your hip as you shift your left fingers forward for Ardha Chandra. Opening up. Raise up with your right fingers when and if. Your gaze might find your upper hand. Good. Soften your standing leg, reach way back. Land on your toes, ground your heel, rise and back peaceful. And then it's a three-leg dog as you cartwheel down. But notice which muscles are in charge, right? So if you're feeling only your left butt muscles, put more action into your right foot. So you feel like you're connecting to the ground to have the lift. Yes, your left glutes will turn on, but don't let them be the leader, right? Notice if you have a kicking quality in your left foot and have more of a reach with your left leg. One last breath. And then even it out, downward facing dog. Give yourself a whole breath in and a whole breath out. And one last breath here. And one last exhale. Good. And then stay in your downward facing dog. Move your right foot onto the wood surface or whatever is outside your mat, wood, carpet, something, right? So you're making contact with not mat. And then move your foot forward from there so it feels like it is about halfway forward on your mat. Your hands have stayed where they are. And then it feels like a funky version of Parsvottanasana, so this pyramid quality. Give yourself one more breath there. And then have your three-leg dog as your right leg goes into the sky, but you can open your hips some. Get longer without crossing over your body. So don't cross your midline. Reach up, reach up, reach up, reach up. Close your hip. Bring your leg through your midline. Step into a short stance here for true Parsvottanasana. Still, your fingers are further out, not lined up with your toes. So your hands have stayed in that same place the whole time. Bring your face towards your knee and round some in your upper back so you feel more flexion through your spine. Give yourself the breath in and the breath out. Lift your head away from that. Plant into your palms, downward facing dog. Move your left foot over to the left off your mat, and then move it forward from there so you feel like you've found the halfway point. Maybe it's slightly more forward than halfway. Press back with your hips. Press down and forward with your hands. And allow yourself to feel longer from your armpit to your elbow. One last breath. Press into your hands. Let your left leg go to the sky up behind you.
Three-legged dog. So a little opening in your hip. Not a lot, just a little. Pressing and reaching. Send the floor away with your hands. So you don't feel yourself dropping your shoulders forward, but you can feel your ribs going closer to your thigh. And then bring your left leg closer to your midline as you step forward for a short stance on the mat, Parsvottanasana. And then chin in, see your knee, and close in. So there's more of a roundness, more thoracic curve in your upper back. And one last moment there. And lift your gaze, plant your palms, downward facing dog. With your right foot, step right over to that halfway on the floor point. Pause there. Three-leg dog, your right leg all the way up behind. Press through your arms, press through the ground, reach from the ground up. Bring your right leg into that short stance on the mat. Ground your heel. Move your left hand over by your right foot and revolve your triangle. Breathing in. And again, let your gaze be the thing that comes second to the rotation in your chest. Make sure your back heel is grounding, Lindsay. One last moment there. Unravel. Both hands down. Remember, they're slightly forward of your feet. Turn up your back heel. Step back, downward facing dog. Step direct with your left foot to that halfway point. Find the diamond point. Send your right heel straight back behind you so you have this funky Parsvot. Three-leg dog. Move your left leg up into the sky behind you. You can open your hip a little bit. And then bring your leg more neutral as you come through. Stepping up. Reconnect your right heel. Cross your right hand over by your left foot to the block. Inside, outside, revolve. Keep moving your outer left hip back in space. Give yourself the breath in and the breath out. Good. And then release. Both hands slightly forward, downward facing dog. See where your hands are. Step or walk or jump to get there. Open to your fingertips, fold to your legs, bow in. Utkatasana as you stand up. Utkatasana. And then stand all the way up. Release your arms. Let the weight sink into your left foot. When you breathe in, move your right leg back in space. Warrior 3. Ball up your fists for a moment and use that to power up the back side of your arms. Like you're holding open your own cape. Imagine your right leg staying long as you start to come up to stand. Move your right leg forward, left peace fingers to your right big toe. Move your right arm back behind you, and you can keep the fist or you can open a palm. Maybe your gaze begins to track to the right. Go on, last moment. And then if your gaze went around, bring it back to the front. Keep your right leg long. As you release your right leg back in space one more time, right palm to the mat or your block. See your standing leg. Find your lifted toes as you look past your standing leg. And then revolve an Ardha. So revolved Ardha. One last moment. Keep your right hand where it is. Bring your left hand to the mat. Press into your palms. Open your hip, standing split. So opening your hip doesn't mean crossing over, right? So stay where you are and grow from the ground. See if your left ribs can move into your left thigh some. Lift your gaze, tent your fingers, line up your 2 feet, fold into your legs. Utkata as you come up. And then standing up. Good. Put the weight over into your right foot. And then start to move your left leg back in space. Warrior 3. So you can make those fists again, hold open your cape, and gaze forward some. So forward doesn't necessarily mean that you gaze at the wall in front of you, but see the floor beyond the front of your mat. See if you can lower your torso just a smidge, Claire. Good. And then press into the ground. Keep your left leg long as you're coming back up. Right peace fingers to your left big toe. You can always bend your left knee and then open up your left arm behind you. You can keep your gaze static or move your gaze around behind you. So Stephanie, use your right hand and cross over to your left thigh to hold. Yep, so you have the rotation. There you go. As you bring it back around, your left leg will stay long. Drop your left palm down toward the block or to the floor. See your standing shin, look past it, find your lifted toes, and then revolve from there. Revolved Ardha. Both hands down for standing split. So plant your hands, press your foot, and then extend with a little openness through your hip. Drop more weight into your hands here to help the fold come into view. Good. Fingertips, line up your 2 feet. Fold in. Uttanasana. And then have your hands planted. Walk your feet back a little bit. Drop onto your knees. And find your blanket. And I'm going to turn my back to you for a moment, just so you can see the play of this. I'm going to thicken up my blanket for some head cush. And then when I interlace my hands, just like when you were here behind your head for Utkatasana, think about that sensation. So you close in your wrist, you drop down your head. With your toes curled, when you come under. So here's a great place to be. And there's always going to be one foot that's going to stay on the ground in this. And then it's that step that feels like you're stepping toward the halfway point. And then once you've done that, you'll take a leg up. So you have one leg down, one leg up, and this slightly standing split quality through your upper leg before it comes back down to the center and you walk over to the other side. So your left foot will step to that halfway diamond point, press through your elbows to open up. And the feeling where your leg is in space. So if it wants to really cross over someplace, stay honest with yourself. Reach up. And because you've always got something connecting you to the ground, you might feel like you've got more permission to fly free. Okay? Pad your space. Interlace your fingers. Drop your elbows down to the floor. And then think about closing your elbows in, right? So when we were standing and doing it, there were two actions. You opened your elbows and you narrowed your elbows. Go to the narrower place of your elbows.
Curl your toes under as your head finds a spot. And then lengthen your legs. And you can stay just like that, right? Or once you're there, you can step your right foot out to the floor, and you can feel like you're trying to line up almost with your right elbow. It's not going to quite get there, but aim for that. And then press into your elbows, press into your right foot to raise your left leg up high. But do it from the ground. You know you're not doing it from the ground if you immediately fall to the side. So press your arms, press your right foot. Keep anchoring back with your right heel, Claire. Press back without turning it in, though, right? So feel like you're, yep, and then send it straight up. Down with your arms, down with your arms, down with your arms. That's it, Claire. And then slowly bring it down. Both feet on the mat. And then you can move your left foot over to the diamond point. That's it, Megan. Press through your arms to raise your leg. And then think about your upper leg petrus so it doesn't cross over. That's it. Reaching, pressing with your arms, pressing. Parshva Ekapada Shirsasana. One last moment. And then slowly bring it down. Good. Drop to your knees. Sit back to your heels. You can move your blanket out of the way. See if you can bring your hips back to your heels, just on your heels, but then your elbows and forearms down to your mat. So you have this sort of child's pose sphinx combo. And then once you're there, let your exhale move your chin to your chest. And when you breathe in, gaze forward beyond your mat. Exhale your head, chin in. Inhale, gaze forward. Just taking some head nods there from this lower point. In and out of it a couple more times. Good. Bring your chin in one last time. And then as your head comes back to neutral, all fours to your belly. When you get down to your belly, rest your arms down by your sides. If you're on the backs of your hands, you can let your shoulders drop a little bit more. Give yourself one more breath. Make those soft fists with your hands again, like you're holding a cape, and then lift your cape off the ground. Once your cape is up, roll your shoulders back. Once your shoulders are back, lift your chin, lift your chest. Once your chest is up, float your legs, Shalabhasana. Imagine making your legs longer here. One last breath. And then lower down. Move your hips a little bit, side to side. Still your hips. Bend both knees. See if you can reach and grab one ankle at a time. Find a grip around the front of your shin. Drop your pelvis into the floor. Roll your shoulders back. Lift your thighs a smidge. And then your ribs and your head. Dhanurasana. Lift your gaze some. Good. Ease down. Let go of your feet. Drop your arms. Move your hips some.
If you prefer, you can stay on your belly or flip to your back. So one more back bend there. When you get to your back, drop the soles of your feet flat. You can graze the back of your heels. Plant your hands to the mat near your head. Narrow in your elbows. You can stay right here just like this, or begin to press with your hips up toward the ceiling. Happily stay. Or press through your hands and complete the wheel. Breathing through the whole front side of your body. Andrea, think about narrowing your knees a little bit. And then chin to your chest. Ease on down. Roll your wrists, knees side to side. Windshield wiper your legs. Good. Steady your legs. Hold the back of your thighs with your hands. Rock a couple times. Come on up. And then when you're up, come into like a modified ankle knee or like a Sukhasana modification where your two shins just line up one in front of the other. And then you can use each foot to support a knee. So I've got a heel under one knee, big toe mound under the other. And then when I come forward, I'm going to use my forearms right at my knees and try to press my knees into the midline. So I'm kind of pressing things narrower. And Megan, see if you can narrow your knees just a little bit. So you really feel like your feet are supporting your knee joints. And you can stay right there and feel how when you press your arms against your knees, and there's that stopping place, you can feel the muscles in your upper back and the muscles in your chest firing. Can you feel that? Good. And then keep that perhaps, and your elbows can drop to the floor in front of your shins. And then you've really got the spread across your upper back. But then rather than dropping your head toward the ground, look at your thumbs. And use that gaze towards your thumbs to change the angle of your spine a little bit. So rather than just being all rounded, you've still got the spread across your upper back, but because you've gazed forward, you've added some extension to your spine. Then you use that to deepen your hip crease and feel like your belly can drop into your lap a little bit more. And then you can drop your head in. Good. Ease on up. And just change which shin is in front. So if you want to eyeball it, your knees, you want to try to get them in line with your hips as much as possible, right? And then you can use your forearms and elbows to press your knees toward that narrowness. Fire the muscles across your back. But hinge forward a little bit as you're doing that, Petra, so you can really press on the outside. It's almost like you're scooping with your elbows and your forearms against your knees. And then narrow in a little bit, yeah? So think ankle to knee more than a crossed leg seat, even though it's not actual ankle to knee. And then you can stay there or drop your forearms to the mat in front of you, but then a little gaze forward. But feel the gaze coming forward from your breastbone rather than just your chin, right? So it's a subtle difference of like where you start the action. And then let your head release. Good. Come on up.
Stretch your legs out long in front of you. Lift your lower belly up and in. So as you go forward, there's that same sense of openness as you move your breastbone forward. You might feel your ribs make contact with your thighs. And then your hands might come forward, and then your elbows might hit the mat next to your legs. And in that space, now draw your chest forward like you're trying to open up a back bend, but you're stuck. And then once you can't move anymore, then let your head start to release. Bowing inside yourself. Give yourself a full breath out of your mouth. And then ease yourself up. And you can lie back or you can cross your legs to sit. I will go about 3 minutes over time. So if you need to skedaddle and go shovel or something, I don't know. My driveway needs shoveling if you want to go over. But use the time as you need to sit or to release. Om Jaya Jagadisha Hare Swami Jaya Jagadisha Hare Bhakta Janan Ke Sankata Tasa Janan Ke Sankata Ksana Indora Kare Om Jaya Jagadisha Hare Om Jaya Jagadisha Hare Swami Jaya Jagadisha Hare Bhakta Janan Ke Sankata Tasa Janan Ke Sankata Ksana Indora Kare Om Jaya Jagadisha Hare Om Jaya Jagadisha Hare Swami Jaya Jagadisha Hare Bhakta Janan Ke Sankata Tasa Janan Ke Sankata Ksana Indora Kare Om Jaya Jagadisha Hare Take a deeper, fuller breath and start to move around a bit. And roll to your side and find your way up to sit. Loka samasta sukino bhavantu. Join me. Loka samasta sukino bhavantu. Bring your hands to your heart. Loka samasta sukino bhavantu. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. We are one life, we are one light, we are one love. It's with gratitude that I bow, honoring the divine in each of you.